Crowdfunding Uncut. Be sure to head over to crowdfundinguncut.com for crowdfunding resources. I actually just released a new guide. It's 5 ways to help you build your audience. And today's interview, I'm actually pretty stoked because I don't think I've ever brought a client onto an interview before. And this is Maneesh Sethi. He's the founder of Pavlok, this beautiful device. Head over to pavlok.com to check it out. But it's a habit-breaking wearable that uses aversive therapy to help you break bad habits. I got involved with them with the most recent Shot Clock campaign on Indiegogo, where we raised just over $300,000. And at first, when I came across this wearable, I thought it was a little masochistic, but amazing at the same time, because what it does is it conditions you to wake up earlier from the threat of electric shock. So it doesn't actually shock you unless if you stay snoozing, and you can use this same principle to break any bad habit. And I fell in love with the product right away. And what was even crazier is when I came across Maneesh through a introduction from Jordan Harbinger on Facebook, he's like, yeah, I want to launch a campaign in about 2.5 weeks. And I thought, this is going to be crazy, because any other campaign I've ever managed, we've taken about 3 months plus to build an email list. But what Maneesh had on any of the other campaigns I've worked with is he'd actually already done a campaign when he launched Pavlok back in 2014. And they had thousands of people on an email list. They had a massive engaged audience, and that was the only reason we could really launch a successful campaign. And we ended up raising over $100,000 in the first 8 days, and just going on to being a really successful second campaign. So the reason I wanted to bring Maneesh onto the show is because he's not just a guy who's developed amazing hardware startup. He's done quite a few other things with Hack the System. He's been featured on Shark Tank. He's been to Necker Island to visit Richard Branson for product launch. A bunch of other stuff that I'm going to let him get into. But one thing that really stands out with Maneesh is how he can get unconventional press and have really interesting really interesting angles with Pavlok, and he just has a really cool take on how he's used crowdfunding to launch his brand. So, Maneesh, I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Hey, I'm really excited to be here.
I know. So, I think I've talked you up enough, but if the audience doesn't know how you got started online, can we just take about 5 or 6 minutes just to go into who Maneesh Sethi is?
Yeah, of course. I'd love to talk about myself. My name is Maneesh Sethi. I'm from California. I grew up basically in an Indian household, being the youngest of 4. My brother was very successful. Probably many of your readers recognize the name Ramith Sethi from IWillTeachYouToBeRich.com. And ever since I was young, I've always found myself to be very distracted. I would always try to get myself to do stuff, and I was always unable to maintain and control my own behavior. And so as I was a young kid, I got report cards always that said he could be such a good student if only he were able to stop being distracting or to stop. And you'd see a consistent pattern of that. And so as I grew up, I noticed that I would be really good at figuring out and waiting till the last minute to do stuff, and then getting things done, and then getting a really good grade, or figuring out how to do it last minute, but doing a decent job when under pressure. And as I got to college, I started to notice that when I would always wait till the last minute to study, and then all my friends would be studying the entire quarter, the entire semester, and I would end up getting the same grade as them. Yet I would feel internally as a failure, because the external metrics of success of grades might have shown me as successful, and I was used to getting decent grades, but I would never be able to just get myself to do what I thought was success, sit down and stop wasting time online. So I was very impulsive. I decided to drop out of school and take a couple of years off to travel the world. And along the way, I got into the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. I recreated a AdSense business that was designed to be a muse. I worked 3 hours and 59 minutes a week, exactly one less than Tim's 4-Hour Work Week. And I made a video that I posted on Tim's site for a competition. And that video ended up being the first big thing. It drove a lot of traffic to my new website. I put up an email opt-in form. And then I made my first affiliate deal from those emails, the first 400 or so that came in. And then from there, I started blogging. And I would do an article where every time I would move to a new country every few months. I moved for about 4.5 years. I traveled to a new country every few months. And I would do projects and try to increase my blog, etc. But I could still never get control over my own behavior. I could never get myself to just focus. My kids called it, when I was a kid, doctors would refer to it as ADHD. My mom always told me that I should drink more milk. Go figure.
Calcium could help, I guess.
And so, long story short, one of my blog posts, I decided to do the site Hack the System. I wrote hacks about doing different ways to improve your goals in the categories of productivity hacks, so how to become more productive, social hacks, how to break into new countries or learn new languages. So things like the 90 Days to Becoming a Famous DJ in Berlin project.
Yeah.
A friend hacked into the Berlin DJ scene. How to learn languages rapidly, stuff like that. So in one of the hacks, I decided to become more productive. And I hired someone to sit down next to me. And every time I got off task, she would slap me in the face. And I wrote a blog post about it a year later because I was lazy. And that post, I posted it right before I got on a plane from Buenos Aires. And I landed 8 hours later in New York, and there was like 60 missed calls. That post had gone viral. The NPR called me right then. This is Otto. Are you the guy who got slapped in the face? And so from that, I had 3 days of fame, and it was awesome. And a little bit later, I was talking to my friend, and I had this dog shock collar. And I said, why am I paying? What if we just made a dog collar that shocked me every time I went on Facebook rather than hiring a slapper? That would be a funny blog post. And my friend said, dude, let us go to Radio Shack right now. I had a plane flight that day. I postponed my plane flight because it's not every day you get to hang out with someone who can solder stuff together. And
yeah.
Yeah. And so later that day, I had by the end of the day, we had designed a product that it was a dog shot collar. We hooked up the remote control to a computer, and every time I went on Facebook, it sent a signal to zap me. And I made a video about it. And the video was hilarious. And I was about to post it online, and then it clicked. I said to myself, there are millions of devices out there tracking what we do, but this one has literally changed what I do. Maybe there's something here more powerful than just a funny blog post. So from there, it was 3 months of me trying to find somebody who could help me make a prototype for the device. Then 3 months of giving up. I was already just over it. Mm-hmm. I got out of the blue a lucky offer. An investor in Boston offered to invest like $50K and help me build the product for 6 months.
Right.
And so I took him up, and I moved to Boston. And that's how we got started.
So that investor, were you pitching people in your network, or how did you come across this guy?
Yeah, so it's basically I had spent 3 months pitching people and meeting people. I remember in March of 2013, I called my brother. I remember a conversation. I said, I really hope I figure out a way to get this product made soon, because I know myself, and I know that if I don't figure out the next steps soon, I'll give up on it. And this might be the best product idea I've ever had. And I gave up on it 2 weeks later. And so what happened was 2 months later, I was on a call with this guy, and I mentioned this idea I had. I'd stopped thinking about it. And he told me about this incubator called Bolt, B-O-L-T, mm-hmm. out of Boston, that was helping people with stuff. So I opened up a tab. And then this was before I had Pavlok, and I have to close tabs. So I left that tab open for like 2 months. And one day I was like, just at home, and I was like, fuck it, today I'm going to just close my tabs. And so I was knocking out all my tabs, and I got to that one application, and I had already given up on the idea and bought a trip to Thailand to do kickboxing Muay Thai on an island. And I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to go ahead and fill it out. So I wrote, the application was 300 words, and I had smileys in it. And I was just trying to knock it out in 15 minutes. And I did, and it turns out that they had only, out of 800 people or so who applied, they accepted 7 people. And they had wanted a B2B slot. Every other company there that was accepted was like already had a product or a prototype and a lot of hardware experience.
Okay.
So they wanted like a business-to-business product company. They wanted a business-to-consumer company. And then they wanted a wild card slot. And I was the wild card slot.
The dog shock collar guy.
Yeah, the guy with a good idea who has no experience, who seems to be good at marketing and has a following. That was who they gave the wild card slot to, and it worked out.
This product, I've pitched it to people, and it gets one of two reactions. People either see the value in it right away, or they think it's really masochistic and sick. When you were first getting this idea off the ground, how did you deal with the haters?
Oh, it's gotten worse, but it's gotten better. So you met me with Pavlok, right? So if I come to you at a bar and I say, hey, I have a device that helps you break bad habits. I've been telling the story for 3 years, so I know the words to say. You can try it out now, feel it. There's a much different reaction than, hey, I'm working on this idea of a dog collar that shocks you, right? So what we started to find was that people's reactions to what it could be is a lot different than what is in front of you.
Okay.
Secondly, we got a lot of people always, just like you said, people who get the point right away and other people who don't get it at all, no matter how much you try to explain. And I think that in a lot of industries that might be a bad thing, but in my case, I think it was a good thing. We designed a product that shocks you. It's pretty shocking. It's pretty, it's polarizing. And so in some cases, like, you know, you want to elicit an emotion. Nothing is worse than boredom from a reaction. Like, hey, what do? I do this, like, you know, sales CRM system that helps you track your customers. That's like, oh, cool. Nice to meet you. I make a device that shocks you. You have a reaction, right? And like, so to me, like, sometimes I don't get a reaction and it blows my mind. Like maybe 1 out of 10 times, someone will be like, oh, that's cool. Nice to meet you. And I'm like, what? Did you not just hear me? So in our case, you're going to get polarization. How do you deal with trolls? I'll tell you what I do, and what shouldn't be done. What I do is ignore them and ignore them and ignore them. What has happened and never ever works out well is responding to them. Like, for example, the number one post for Pavlok review is a guy who's never tried Pavlok, who wrote a post about our Indiegogo campaign way back before we even knew what we were doing, who refuses to try one and take it down. And it's only because my brother tweeted at him back and forth being like, if you want to compete with this idea, then why don't you write a well thought out article? And the guy did, and it sucks because it's like about the idea and not about the product, but it just lasts at the top of the page. So it never works well to goad a troll. Internally, I think that I'm powered by people not believing in me. I think that you and I are different personality wise here. Where like I don't like it when everyone likes my idea. And in fact, I'm empowered by people thinking I'm stupid. So I think I thrive off of that. So I got lucky.
Yeah. Whereas I'm the type that if I don't think you believe in me, I get really angry and then say, well, I'm just going to prove you wrong. But then it's not from like a fun loving place. It's just like, oh yeah, well, let me show you.
Yeah.
As well. But like, so speaking of, you got investment, and then you've done 2 Indiegogo campaigns now. The first one was back in 2014 when you raised money for Pavlok. I wasn't involved in that, but why did you decide to go the Indiegogo route the first time?
Like in general, or versus Kickstarter?
Crowdfunding in general.
Because I mean, it's a no-brainer. Like, you get to raise money and get people to pledge to help you, and it's a no-brainer. For products, it's like a very obvious idea. I mean, so like, especially now I understand it, because now I'm understanding financials and inventory and all that stuff. So crowdfunding crowdfunding is not free money. It's debt. And if you don't know your COGS and you don't know what you're doing, like your cost of goods, you don't know how to ship and stuff, and you won't. Nobody does. You're gonna you can get in big trouble. Like, for example, we had so many situations where, and we did pretty well. We raised $250 or so on our first campaign. So we got to the point where we finally were done with the product and ready to ship in like August last year.
Yeah.
And then we realized that we had to actually buy the inventory, and it cost like $60,000 or $70,000 all in for us to buy. It was between like $60,000 to $100,000 to buy the inventory for our new product that we had already pre-sold. Before we even shipped, that we'd already pre-sold, not counting shipping, which is a massive fee, which people don't seem to talk about on crowdfunding, and like duties and taxes and all that stuff. So like, what I'm getting at is crowdfunding could, like, if I had done worse, or if I had done way better, either one of those two situations would have been a very scary position to be in. And I also had to raise another $400,000 in order to get to the point of shipping the product.
So where did that, just focusing on like what point you were in development before you launched your crowdfunding campaign, did you have a working prototype, or were you still having to develop the prototype?
No, the prototype was done.
Okay.
We had a and I was talking about this. I was thinking about this previously when you were asking about going to the bar, and I said it's a lot better to have something with you. So we designed our first prototype to be broken up into two parts. We had the stuff we knew and the stuff we didn't know. That was the stuff we knew was like Bluetooth and vibrating motors, and the stuff we didn't know was the shock. And so I decided to make it look cool. And we made the shocking business card. I have it over there, but it's a business card that looks like it's a business card. It looks really cool. It's on metal. But when you touch it and I'm pressing the button on the back, it zaps you. And so that was our first prototype. And we got to test that at the bar and see how bar testing is my favorite way to find out how people respond to your ideas. And so that was the first part of what we did. And then we had turned that into the alpha prototype, which you saw when you were visiting Boston. The really big,
the chunky thing. Yeah,
looks
nothing like this.
And then we had a beta prototype. The beta prototype was the same shape and form factor, but not the final.
Okay.
That we had done. We had 50 of those ready.
Okay.
And now in the newest crowdfunding campaign, we have the final product done.
Mm-hmm.
Which is dope. It was so easy to give out because the thing that crowdfunding is such a powerful way to get press because it's such a direct landing page. Like it's an event, but it only works if you get media to write about it. And the best way to get media to write about it is to have a prototype that you can ship them. Yeah. So we got lucky because we were the device that shocks you and it's naturally explosive. But if you don't, having a prototype that you can ship out is equally effective.
Yeah. And I guess if you only had 50 prototypes or 50 units that you could ship, how would you have prioritized that for press instead of unlimited supply?
I would have shipped it out to the top 50 people who guaranteed that they would write an article about us.
Okay.
Even in the final one, you and me, Khierstyn, on the last one, we offered 50 and we couldn't get 50 people to say yes.
Yeah. And we weren't even doing a typical press pitch. Like, what we were doing is just saying, hey, we have a product that does blank. We'd love to send you one to try.
Yeah.
That's all we were doing, right?
And we had trouble getting 50. But, you send out 10 or 12, and then like 6 or 7 will write a post about it, and then 2 of those will get viral.
Yeah. So would you just send them blind to an address, or would you want to communicate with that person first to see if they're interested?
Communicate and guarantee that they will write an article about you.
Okay. Why do you do that?
Because you have to. Like, otherwise they won't write. Like, so it's really critical that we get people to write articles about us. That's the core focus of the beginning of the press section. And so getting people to say yes, especially when you have a limited amount of prototypes, is very important. You can start by you can start earlier than we did to get more people to say yes. Start 2 months before or 1 month before. But you want to have your prototype done. You want to know how much it costs for you to make it. If you don't know how to mold and if you don't know how to manufacture, you're going to be in big trouble like Coolest Cooler is. So like, make sure you know how much things cost to make. So you want to make sure you have a prototype, but once you have your prototype ready, then you should be shipping it out as much as you can.
So how did you start to learn about manufacturing? That's kind of a broad question, but what I mean is like, you obviously had a bit of stuff figured out beforehand. So did you do the trip to China beforehand? What did that look like?
Yeah, so I just sent you a video about our trip to China that you can maybe post.
Yeah, I'll put that in the show notes.
But we had luck. I got lucky in that I had access to Bolt, and Bolt was like a place that taught me what to do. So they took me to China and gave me on a tour with factories. We didn't use any of the Chinese factories, but learning how it looked was cool. Being in Bolt, basically for me, it was like I absorb knowledge really rapidly. I've understood about myself, and if we talk about personalities, I can tell you what I mean. But I've absorbed information really well. So the big thing that Bolt gave me was sticking me in a room with hardware people for 6 months, ended up being a year, because I learned and asked and learned and asked, and so being around people who do hardware is important. you're not going to do everything yourself. Hardware is very hard. But being at like a hobbyist workshop, joining one of the hardware workup spaces or workshops in your area, and you can definitely look up like hobbyist workshop or people who do Arduino and Raspberry Pi. Find those people. They're going to be the ones to help you understand what you need to do to build product.
Okay. Last topic I want to talk about is when I describe how I think you differ from a few of the other projects I've been on or talked to, you have a knack for getting unconventional press. And just around the Shot Clock launch, you were very last episode of this season of Shark Tank, and you had a New York Times feature where that was more of a case study to really prove how somebody can use Pavlok to lose weight or quit snacking. And I forgot to mention Spike TV's Life or Debt, where it was a live case study to show how people have used Pavlok to have better spending habits. I would love to know, just focusing on not Shark Tank, but the other two, where you got people to write about not your story, but how it's actually benefited people. How did you get in front of that to get that kind of press?
I can tell you exactly how in both cases. So people always, right after our first Indiegogo launch, we had a ton of press. In fact, I'll send you another link of a video that you should share where we spliced together all the local press. And people said I should release a PR course or teach people how to build a masterclass and stuff on how to get press. And I said, it's actually very simple, and I'll tell you the secret in one sentence. Invent a product that shocks you. And I always say that jokingly, but recently I've been thinking of it more with a synonym term. Like, yeah, if you make a device that shocks you, I got lucky because all the press called us. And so when I got, so Life or Debt, they called me. Okay. The New York Times, they called me because a reporter had seen a bunch of people who lost weight and quit sugar. The Shark Tank, they called me. All of these case studies called me. And so I've actually found this now to be more of it's becoming a limitation more than it is a skill. I think I have an innate sense of always wanting to be, ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to be impressive or be awesome or be remembered. And I think that ever since I was a kid, I just naturally developed a knack for whenever someone says you can't do something, or whenever I do something, I want to do it in the most impressive way, not the best way, but the way that's most impressive. And like, I think that it comes, like, when I was younger, it came across as exaggeration. But all the stuff I used to exaggerate about is starting to come true. If that makes sense. I kind of like I have this fake world where all these things are magic and happening, and then the more I talk about it, the more real it becomes.
It just actually manifests itself.
Yeah, like especially because like I've been talking about what it could be for so long, and now it's starting to happen and better than I thought. And so, what I'm getting at is you don't have to be imaginative to build a good business or do a good crowdfunding campaign. You don't have to get all the press if you get systematic, guaranteed results. There's multiple ways to grow stuff. But if you want to get press, it's always useful to be shocking. And that means being different and worth writing about. Like the word remarkable, I like to think of, because it means worth being remarked about. And so is a small product that doesn't do much worth being remarked about? No, maybe not. But if it has a twist to it, often it's just a twist that makes it simpler and more interesting, you can fix something. So a good example regarding Pavlok is another company released a banking software in Europe, and they set up so that it was Internet of Banks or something, so they could have a connect to your bank balance, and if your bank balance was low, it could turn down your Nest and something, et cetera. Yeah. But they hooked it up to Pavlok, so now it shocks you if your bank balance is low, and suddenly the combination of shock factor plus bank balance is a storyline. Actually, Khierstyn, this is something to talk about offline.
Yeah, offline.
With regards to other people's products, I'm trying to think of a good example here.
Okay, so
I'll give you a good example. Hamburger Helper. They just released that album of 5 hip hop beats that were produced by musicians, and it was unrelated. It's a hip hop album. It's unrelated to Hamburger Helper, but those two things are so. It was a shocking experience that made it was a big PR burst that exploded on its own. So that's a big corporation. It's like it's a big corporation using something like Chipotle when they did their old video game, when Chipotle released the Scarecrow video game. It's like combining different media elements. So if you find a way that you can tell your story in a more interesting way, and then make it about the story, your product doesn't have to be the story. The shot clock is more than the shot clock. It's just that people will only remember one thing. Mm-hmm. So pick that one thing and make it and twist it until the story. And it's hard to do, but it's a lot of brainstorming and talking to people until you figure out something cool.
It's kind of like I was talking to a friend yesterday who's doing a proposal for Nando's chicken. Do you know Nando's?
Mm-mm.
No. It's huge. Piri chicken. Anyways, hopefully my listeners will know what Nando's is, but it's this big chicken chain, international, that's only available in certain parts of the U.S. But what they did to announce the release of their mango chicken in Australia was they stole this small town's mango statue, and it went missing for like a week randomly, and then it was a big PR stunt by Nando's. But they did something remarkable and different that was also related to their brand.
Huge.
But
yeah.
The one thing, so a lot of campaigns will have a hard time standing out, because if you are releasing yet another pair of headphones or another planner, how can you be different?
Well, the first thing I always say is that, why are you releasing another pair of headphones? So when I look at Pavlok, the product, there's a show called The Profit. This guy goes in and fixes businesses. And he always says, when you're fixing a business, there's people, process, product. You want the right people doing the right process, selling the right product.
Yeah.
If your product isn't a strong product, then no amount of marketing or PR spin is going to help it. So you want to make sure that you're building something useful. And crowdfunding is good for this because it lets you test what's useful, right? Yeah. Going in all in with a prototype, if you're building an electronics product, can be not a good idea. Maybe you should do it with Arduino first and set like a much longer delivery time. But I warn you about that just because you should know what you're getting yourself into with hardware.
Yeah.
But regardless, getting like a good product is critical. So there's a headphone right now which went super viral. I think they have like the Bluetooth earbuds plus it's like
a headset thing.
It's an on-ear headphones, but you can twist it out and turn it into blue.
See, that's different.
Yeah, so that's different.
Yeah.
They took it and twisted it, right? I saw another one where it was just inside your both ears with no wires. That was doing really well.
Yeah, that too.
You can also target it at a sport. So like this one is for tennis players and make it like targeted and somehow. These days, like some standard stuff, like there's so many things you can do with accelerometers and connections with your phone and app and software, but people haven't connected everything together. So like, if you're releasing headphones for golf and the headphones can see your swing somehow, maybe and then they can tell you, hey, you should have swung harder, or they integrate with the ZEP sensor, something that can do that. And then, it swings and they're like your coach for, that's like a thing. Right now, it's like there's infinite things you can build. And for some reason, everyone's not building the coolest things. I don't quite get it. Like, there's so many, like, it's so easy compared to how it used to be. It used to take 8 to 10 years to build a product. The Apple IIe from Steve Jobs?
Yes.
That was the best-selling computer for 9 years. No computer lasts 9 years right now. So you can, like, create new products all the time, and the first one is hard, but the second one's a lot easier.
Yeah, it's just a learning curve to go through.
Yeah, I really like building, and one thing that I try to harp on with my company and my team is decentralization or modularity. And that word sounds weird, but it's so powerful. I don't know, it's just in my brain and it won't go away.
Decentralization and modularity as two different words, or?
They're synonyms.
Okay.
So, like, module, this is Pavlok, this is a band. You can also wear it as a necklace that connects to your neck.
Yep.
You can wear it, you felt that.
Yeah, I did.
Wear it, flip. You can also stick it anywhere on your body. So that's a form of modularity. And I think of this because more than one person can work on the designs of Pavlok at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, but that focus extends down to everything. So in our software, we have an API for writing new apps, and even our own company uses the API to write our own apps for the app. for our product. So that lets other developers modularly or decentralizedly write their own decentralizedly write their own apps. And it goes down further with the way that we've designed our organization. I've created a modular. I'm working. This is awesome. You should know about this since you're in it. But creating a modular organization that allows us to rapidly build new products, building platforms and services. Like you can only scale your time. So services keep you at a scaling per hour. Jobs keep you scaled. You can't. No one ever became a millionaire or billionaire off of a hourly salary.
Yeah.
And as you start to build an asset, you can start to use it to grow more rapidly. And I found that, like many other companies, many other personalities, had they had my company, would have chosen one thing, particularly smoking. If my brother was me, and he discovered, for people who are on this call, they don't know about this, Pavlok's really useful for quitting addictions and bad habits like smoking. And if you zap yourself for 5 days while you smoke a cigarette, your brain creates a Pavlovian association between the two, getting upwards of 50%. In one of our studies, 75% of people quit smoking in less than a week of therapy, measured 6 months later. That's like 8 to 10 times more effective than nicotine patches.
Yeah.
And so that's a really big deal. If my brother was me, he would have been like, all right, we made a device. Okay, it cures smoking. Wait, hang on. It cures smoking? Holy shit, it cures smoking? And he would have gone down the path of curing smoking, and he'd probably be
everything else, right?
Yeah, but he'd also probably be a lot farther than I am. He probably would already be medically tested and already have it in hospitals, and it would already be a much bigger company than mine. And my viewpoint is I wish I could do that. But I also I get bored really quickly and jump around to the next thing. So, oh, hey, we do this, but we also do memory, but we also do gaming, but we also do movies, and it's created a problem where we're not like we don't own mind share in anything except maybe Shock, but it's created this, and you can judge me on this in a year or so. We've created this foundation where I think we'll be able to rapidly, because of our app store, modularly, rapidly grow because we can have thousands of developers working for us. Doing the work without us needing to do it. So that's the goal.
Yeah, because I find like your company has done so well based on having one device that speaks to everyone. And they say that, if you speak to everyone, you speak to no one. But considering how successful your brand has become just by being the main habit-breaking wearable, think of what you could do when you actually focus on each niche.
Think about it. Actually,
right? It's nuts.
I think that's what you
Got some siren in the background there.
So you want to say that again?
There's a siren in the background.
Still.
We're good. You can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Wicked. Yeah, so, man, that's awesome.
You want to say what you just said again for the siren, or you want to just keep moving?
Just keep moving. I guess, did you not hear me?
I didn't hear you.
Well, I'm just saying, like, your company's become super successful based on being the one wearable for all bad habits. And they say that if you don't pick a niche and focus, that you're speaking to nobody if you try to speak to everyone. But I think that your brand has a ton of legs considering the following you have and how well the brand is doing if we start to focus on specific habits moving forward. So I actually think you made a really good play by proof of concept of just the general habit-breaking wearable before you moved into something else. Because you really, as you said, got time to figure your shit out and build this platform,
so.
Right?
There's a lot of benefits and a lot. Like, I think that if I could go back in time, there's things I would do differently. It's funny how things have come full circle. Like all the stuff I cut from my first ideas are coming back. But it's, it really time will tell because the biggest fear I have is that we're moving too slowly. And so, I'm worried about that. But I think that because we've shifted, we could have been a smoking company, and then we shifted to being a habit-breaking hardware company, and now we've shifted again into being a habit behavior company, where it's not about the hardware. This is just a tool, but we want to make it so that the product that we sell is habit change. And so if that works, and I'm hoping it will, there's no one who can compete with that because you can't there are people who can develop hardware faster, but not many people can develop. No one can develop behavior faster than I think we can. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody understands it as well as we do, or at least no one's out there trying to do that in the right way. With we have a goal. Like a lot of people are trying to change habits using apps, and a lot of people are trying to track stuff using hardware.
Yeah.
But no, put the two together, and I think that we have a lucky balance if we play our cards right.
So you probably get this question all the time, but I want to know, do you have one bad habit that you're looking to break, or how do you use a Pavlok to manage yourself? It's clearly something happening outside.
Alrighty, so how do I use Pavlok myself? So
Yeah.
I've broken about a dozen habits using Pavlok. The biggest ones being tortilla chips. There's some videos of me online. That one.
It's an interesting one.
I used to scratch. I had a retainer that I got rid of, so I would compulsively lick the back of my teeth, and that one I've gotten better at. Negative thoughts. Getting over my ex-girlfriend was a big one. Okay, so then I connected it to our apps, and I use it a lot for if this then that will beep when I make a sale, which I like.
Okay.
Every hour or so, I get a vibration or a zap reminding me to meditate or to take a glass of water. I set it to vibrate every time I meditate, every minute, and so that helps me meditate better, stay focused, and not lose track of time. And then lastly, the Chrome extension has been really useful for me. So the Chrome extension lets you set blacklisted websites as well as set the maximum number of tabs you want to open.
Okay.
And that's helped me reduce opening too many tabs. So I like that one a lot.
Which is great for productivity.
Great for productivity. And it integrates with rescue time, so it knows. But recently we found that, and a lot of Pavlok is shifting to this, that breaking bad habits is a way to stop the problem, but other people respond better to forming new habits in their lieu.
Yeah.
And so we found that the act of having a morning routine and tracking specific elements throughout the day is the most effective way to change behavior, creating like anchor points, things you want to do in the morning. So we've really rewritten a lot of our app to focus on tracking behaviors. So you set morning routines that you want to hit, you do them, you earn points, we call them volts, for doing them. And then those volts can be redeemed for new habits, new apps, and eventually physical goods.
Is this the new upgrade for the app?
So the new app that you'll have will show you the design and basic interface. The new tracking we're developing probably for an August release.
Okay.
But the big focus we're trying to get at is morning routines and nightly routines of you tracking what you do, and then you're then able to adjust. So rather than forcing you to start zapping on day one, we start off by tracking what you do for the first few days, and then we use that data to help you reduce and hit your goals, easing you into the process and earning rewards for doing so.
I love that, because I think we were talking offline. You sent me the spreadsheet, your tracker spreadsheet of everything you do on a daily basis, and I just thought, man, I need to use that, because there are some things on the day, like I have a daily routine I do, but there are certain actions I want to put into my day, like that are bad habits for me, like not checking my email every day. I would really like that to be a thing I do every day, but I just forget about it if I'm not like consciously tracking it. So I think having that in the app will be really awesome, or a different version of that. But can people use the app right now that don't have a Pavlok, or is that?
Yeah, you can use it. You can use it, and you can use the apps. And instead of getting a zap or vibration, you'll just get a push notification.
Nice. Okay.
If you open too many tabs, you get a push. And you can download the Chrome extension at pavlok.com/productivity.
Okay.
Use
awesome.
that with Pavlok.
You think I would have that? Oh wait, no. Maybe I do. Anyways.
You should if you don't.
Put that in there.
And now, and I think that's a great question. I think that we're really trying to develop that out with the tracking system. So, in August or so, it'll start being more clear how it works.
Can't wait.
Me neither.
All right. Well, this has been fun. Before we wrap this up, do you have any famous last words?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. No, that's not the last word. That was just the ending to a film. I think that if I were to give last words relevant to crowdfunding, I don't know. You should pick a good product and then try it out. It's pretty cool. Oh, and if you want to build something related to behavior change or habits, get in contact with me.
Yeah. What is the best way to get in contact with
Oh,
you?
and if you're also interested in hardware and have experience in hardware or software development or user experience and user interface design or email marketing, copywriting, stuff like that. No, not that. Then get in
That's
contact.
me.
We have a jobs list at angel.co/Pavlok.
Fantastic. Cool. We're always hiring. It's a fantastic team. So
Awesome.
yeah.
And, and I'm the best boss ever. Right, Khierstyn? Right?
He's terrible. You didn't catch that, right? Tim. Kidding. He's great, but you're not my boss.
That's true.
I constantly have to remind you of that. No, I'm kidding. Cool. This has been fun. Where can people reach you?
Maneesh@pavlok.com.
Sounds good. I'll have those in the show notes. So this has been fun. Thanks so much.
Pleasure. Take care.
Thanks for watching another episode. This is Crowdfunding Uncut, and I am Khierstyn. Be sure to check back next week. We have more amazing interviews coming up. And if you're digging the content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. And if you want the freebie that is on your right-hand side, be sure to go to crowdfundinguncut.com and get the free guide on how you can build your audience, because frankly, your audience is how you are going to have a successful crowdfunding campaign. So don't skip that step because you're probably going to fail. Anyways, I'm Khierstyn, and can't wait to see you guys next time.